Real Agriculture's coverage of Agritechnica 2017 is brought to you by Dow AgroSciences Canada.
Kelvin Hepner with Real Agriculture. We're at Agritechnica 2017, brought to you by Dow AgroSciences. And joining us now, we are in the Fritzmeier Umwelttechnik booth, joined by Bernhard Limbrunner. And Bernhard, this device behind us looks sort of like a set of wings that attaches on the front end of a tractor. Sensors on the end. Can you tell us what they're sensing, what they're doing?
We are measuring the crop status, so we are measuring the nitrogen uptake of the crops. And then we have different algorithms for different crops, and then we control the fertilization or crop protection behind the tractor, at least.
So how do you determine how much nitrogen that crop needs right on the spot like that?
It is a reflection-based measuring system. We measure the reflection of the crop. It's an active measuring system. We send light from LEDs to the crop, and then the crop reflects the light, and then you get a reflection curve of the reflected light, and then you can calculate out of different wavelengths. You can calculate different vegetation indices, and this is strongly correlating to the nitrogen uptake of the crop.
Okay, so there are other versions of similar technology on the market.
Yeah.
What's your description of how this is different from the others?
Yeah, one difference is the vegetation index which we use. We have a vegetation index which is based on 4 different wavelengths. Most other sensors use vegetation indices which are based on 2 different wavelengths. And this is, for example, one advantage of this is that you have no saturation. Saturation means that when you have very high nitrogen uptakes, like we have in European conditions, then these other vegetation indices are not able to differentiate the crop. And with a vegetation index like we use, you can measure crops up to 200-250 kilograms of nitrogen in the crop. That's the technical difference. Then also we have also an agronomical difference. We do not use only the information of the plant, the actual information of the plant. We also use yield potential maps in the systems, or in the system. So we have a yield potential maps which tells us on this area of the field we have a yield potential of 6 tons per hectare perhaps, and on another area we have a potential of 10 tons per hectare. And then we know also out of a lot of trials which we had in the last 25 years how much nitrogen the plants really need to reach this given yield potential on every area of the field. And then we feed the plants with the amount of nitrogen which they really need to reach this yield potential.
Okay, so how did you come up with this technology, or what was the need for it, or what drove the demand for it?
On the one side that the farmers want to fertilize as good as possible and also have a benefit out of that, an economical benefit. And the other side is also the ecological benefit. You can raise your nitrogen efficiency when you use this, because as just mentioned, we always bring out the amount which the plants really can take up. And if you do, for example, uniform application, then you fertilize in areas where you have perhaps a high yield potential and you fertilize a uniform amount of nitrogen, then you bring out too less fertilizer. And on the other side, in areas with a low yield potential, you bring out too much fertilizer. And so it raises the nitrogen efficiency in every area of the field, at least. Yeah.
So just to be clear, you say this is more accurate in determining what is crop in the field and also measuring the nitrogen needs. And is it a higher nitrogen level that you can reach with this?
Not a higher nitrogen level, but a more efficient nitrogen level. We have a lot of trials all over Europe in the last, or we had a lot of trials all over Europe in the last 20 or let's say 10 years, 12 years. And the result out of these trials was that sometimes we brought out less fertilizer but reached the same yield. And on the other side, we sometimes also brought out a little bit more fertilizer but also with a much higher yield. Okay. So the difference is, or the advantage is not always the same. It differs depending on how the farms actually work or what is their fertilizing strategy or whatever. Okay. And we have all trials which we had in the last years. Also a lot of trials with research institutes and universities and so on. We had at least an economical benefit of about 60 euros per hectare compared to the farm typical application.
Okay. And just to give people context, this is on the front end of a tractor, and This is happening in real time versus what is happening at the back end of the tractor?
It's mounted in front of the tractor, and then it sends. We have 2 different versions of the system. We have one version which is controlled by a Windows-based tablet PC, and another version which is based on an isobus communication. And then this, as mentioned, it communicates with a terminal on the tractor, with the Windows-based terminal or with the ISO-based terminal, and these terminals then control the fertilizer spreader or the sprayer behind. And then it brings out the right amount depending on what the sensor or the algorithms calculate.
Okay. So which crops have you figured out this algorithm for,
Yeah.
and which crops are the sensors suited or calibrated to?
You can use it for nearly all crops or all applications which you want to do, and we always try to find an absolute calibration where the farmer does not have to calibrate the system. That this is then based on a lot of trials, a lot of field trials, and we have this absolute calibration finished already for winter wheat, for oilseed rape, and for winter barley. And we actually work on the last tests for potatoes, for some salad crops, and some other crops.
Okay.
But with a calibration mode, which we also use, you can also use it for. We have farmers who use it for their onions, who use it for all other crops at least, tulips and whatever they want.
Okay. And right now it's available in Europe. What about North America?
It's actually available in several countries in Europe, and we also want to go on expanding the sale also for some other countries in Europe. We have always some partners or potential distribution partners who want to sell it in America, and we will go on in the next years, I think. I don't know exactly when, but when we have finished building up our distribution network here in Europe, then we will also go to North America.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for your time, Bernard.
Thank you very much.